Hello and welcome to another edition of the Best Football Show. I'm Brian Baldinger. Good morning to everybody. Coming from the comforts of my third floor office here, NFL Films. I got video screens and whiteboards all over the place. Just breaking down college tape. Can't get enough of it. Every day I learn something new. But right now, and by the way, you can find me at Baldy NFL on all the platforms: Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube. You name it, I'm out there. NFL Network, doing shows here today. And then always at the free Odyssey app, just down, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we're in the middle right now of really looking at divisions, division by divisions. We finished up the AFC last week. We have started the NFC, and we're starting in the NFC East. I've finished with the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's time to get to the New York Giants, who were about as disappointing a team as there was in the NFL last year. Because they went from being a playoff team in 2022 and the union of Joe Shane, the general manager, Brian Dable, and Wink Martindale, it was just a nice confluence of positive energy, finishing strong, Saquon having a great year, Daniel Jones having his best year, winning a playoff game in Minnesota before, losing to the Eagles, who were on their way to the Super Bowl. And then last year, and I was up there last year in mini camp. I was up there in training camp. At no point did I see the train wreck that happened. And it happened quickly, in large part because the offensive line completely collapsed. You lost, your starting left tackle, your starting rookie center right off the bat, and a 40-0 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. And it was a bad start, and it never really got a whole lot better. So last year was last year, and now this thing is in the middle of kind of being blown up. Wink Martindale's gone. Friction, him and Brian Dable, whatever, gone. Here comes Shane Bowen. Shane Bowen, quality coach, came from the Tennessee Titans, defensive coordinator there. He comes in to coordinate. He's looking for effort. He's looking for takeaways. He preaches the things that almost every defense coordinator should preach. We'll see what happens. But really, this team it's either being deconstructed. It depends how you look at it. You lose Saquon Barkley. He's been the face of your organization since the day he's got there. He's represented you well. He's had some unbelievable moments. Rookie year, 2,000 yards, 2022, phenomenal season. Now, there's been injuries. There's been a lot of stuff along the way. Some of it you can put on Saquon. Some of it you can say just, a team with the new general manager, new coaches, new offense coordinators. Offensive line has not ever stabilized, ever. That's what they're in the process of doing. And so when you look at this reconstruction, it starts with what they did in free agency, going out and get Jermaine Illuminar from the Raiders, who played very well at right tackle for the Raiders, and getting John Runyon, a guy I know very, very good, and work out with him at a buddy's house here. I see him. He's a great. His dad works right down the hall from me here in NFL Films. I mean, he's a solid player. It's what the Giants used to have when guys like Billy Ard out of Wake Forest, or Richie Seibert, or Sean O'Hara, just regular lunch pail, blue collar workers. That's what John Runyon is. He just is a very good, doesn't make mistakes, lines up every Sunday, will be ready to play. Like, they've got two pieces. And if you look at Andrew Thomas and John Michael Schmitz, and then you go, all right, does Illuminar push Evan Neal? Does Evan Neal move into guard? Do they find a guard? Does Evan Neal, the guy's the 7th pick in the draft. Like, you can't write him off, but he has not played well, hadn't stayed healthy. They got to get this offensive line fixed once and for all. Now, free agency, they go out and get Devin Singletary. Joe Shane drafted him in Buffalo out of Florida Atlantic. He had a great season last year in Houston, played very well. Dependable player, great kid. Small, but plays big, breaks a lot of tackles, good contact balance. All right, got somebody to hand it off to. It's not Saquon, but he was the starting running back for a playoff team last year that won a playoff game against Cleveland. He looked pretty good doing it. The big free agent was they added Brian Burns. They spent a lot of money on a player that's a good player. He's not Micah Parsons. He's not Nick Bosa. He's not one of these TJ Watt. He's not one of these guys. Max Crosby. He has not been. Now, He's been in a horrible organization that all he's seen is changing coaches, general managers, coordinators. Like it's all he's seen is change. Now, if you put him opposite of Thibodeau, you might have a really good 1-2 punch. Dexter Lawrence inside. You can start to put this thing together. Bobby Okereke. You can see, this defense coming around. Now, they lose Wink Martindale. Wink might tell you that they had more takeaways than touchdowns last year. They had 31 takeaways. I mean, they took the ball away. You could argue Wink Martindale and giving up 40 points to Dallas. Some bad performances, but they took the ball away. The blitzes worked. Guys got interceptions, fumbles. They scored 25 stinking touchdowns last year. Like, it's a low amount, all right? They could not score. And you're not winning games if you don't score. So, they get Isaiah McKenzie coming in. But I don't know what you can really – they need – so, really, this whole discussion with the Giants is because I believe this is a reconstruction, getting the offensive lineman, getting Brian Burns. Their team will be better. We'll see what Shane Bowen does with what he has. But honestly, they need receivers, and they have to make a big decision with the 6th pick at quarterback. It's Daniel Jones. They gave $5 million to Drew Lock. For my money, I would have gone out there, and for less money than what they gave Drew Lock, I would have gotten Justin Fields. That's what I would have done. I wouldn't have batted an eyelash and let Justin Fields go win the job, and see what happens. But they give it to Drew Lock, who's started 5 games in 3 years, and don't tell me that he's any kind of an answer. Maybe he's a stopgap until Daniel Jones gets healthy. This team desperately looks like they need a quarterback. Daniel Jones has suffered too many serious injuries to think like this might not continue. With the neck, with the knee. Everybody loves Daniel. I mean, you love Daniel Jones, the person, the football player with the injuries, inconsistent play. Okay. 6th pick, screaming quarterback. But it's also screaming wide receiver. They desperately need a number 1 wide receiver. Paris Campbell is gone. I don't know what Isaiah Hodgins is. It's just been Darren Waller. Is he coming back? Is he done? They need a number 1 wide receiver with whoever the quarterback is. And it's a great draft. Roma Dunze could be there. Malik Neighbors could be there. But the Giants, if they're interested in a quarterback and a quarterback that they like, they might not be able to sit there at 6. They might have to move up in order to get somebody that they really like. We'll see. But I believe the owner has come out and said, the green light is on. If you want to go get a quarterback, you've got my, you've got my permission. So it's very, very interesting what might happen there. And I think there's going to be trades to get to Arizona to get a quarterback. These quarterbacks might not be on the board long, which might leave wide receivers there. We'll see what happens. Let's get to Washington Commanders, because honestly, I could talk. The Commanders are awful, 4-13. Jack Del Rio was fired during the season. Ron Rivera was fired. Here comes Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn brings in his staff. Cliff Kingsbury comes in. Joe Witt Jr. comes in, running the defense. Cliff running the offense. Sam Howell is gone. Jeff Driscoll is in right now. They've got Marcus Mariota. They need a quarterback. They've got the 2nd pick. They're going to take a quarterback. Just depends on which one they're going to take. So that's that. But they have completely rebuilt this roster. I mean, Austin Eckler is now a running back. Tyler Biotic is their starting center. Nick Allegretti comes from Kansas City. Jamison Crowder is probably their, they lose Curtis Samuel. He's probably their slot receiver right now. Frankie Louvu comes in to play linebacker. Jeremy Chin comes in to play that box safety. They bring in a ton of defensive line help. Remember that they trade away Chase Young. Okay, got a 3rd-round pick for him. They trade away Montez Sweat. I never understood that trade, ever. Now, I know they had to pay him. Montez Sweat does not exist in this draft. There's nobody as good as Montez Sweat in this draft. Nobody. Nobody's 6'6", 270 pounds, and runs the 4.4s and plays as hard as Montez Sweat. But they traded him to Chicago. Chicago got better the day they traded him. Okay, so you go out and you get yourself Dorrance Armstrong. All right, Dante Fowler Jr. Cleveland Farrell, all right. A couple of high first-round picks right there. Haven't really delivered. But, Dan Quinn knows these guys. To me, they look like depth positions. If you're Washington right now, you get your quarterback. You never stop building around your quarterback. They've got some receivers there, obviously. So they're okay. They're okay at tight end, but they need defensive playmakers. And so defensive end, they could use. This is a great draft for offensive tackles. They re-signed Cornelius Lucas, who's a swing tackle for them. It's a great draft for tackles. You could get a good one in the second round. It's a good draft for interior offensive linemen. You get those in the second and third round. Keep building, because I think Dan Quinn saw a really good offensive line when healthy in Dallas, and he knows the benefit of it. He was a head coach in Atlanta when it wasn't real great, and they started to struggle and go backwards as a result. So, they need defensive help. They need playmakers. They still have Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. That's good. They pay those guys a lot of money. They need defensive ends. And the guys I mentioned are good. They're rotational players. But this is a team that's in rebuild mode. And really the quicker – look, last year at this time, Houston had the number 2 pick. They took C.J. Stroud, and they won a playoff game, and they won the AFC South in a 1-year turnaround. They get the right quarterback, we can see what can happen. It can just happen. It happens to Cincinnati. It happens if you get the right guy. I don't know who that is, and I don't know if Caleb Williams, if he goes first, how Washington and Cliff Kingsbury looks at the rest of the quarterbacks. Because if they get the right guy, this thing can turn around quickly. If they don't, they need a guy that isn't ready to start, a guy that can't elevate the players around him and the organization around him. It might be a struggle. So they got to get it right. And we're all going to be watching in exactly 22 days what they do with that second pick. Anyways, that's the Washington Commanders. Honestly, this is a team that they probably have 15 new guys just in free agency, and they're just going to rebuild it in Dan Quinn's eyes. And so that's the NFC East, the way I see it right now. We're going to get to the other 3 divisions in the NFC here in the coming days. Please stay tuned to the Best Football Show.